for attending this press conference. Earlier this week, I had a very satisfying experience. I briefly addressed at the National Cultural Center a large gathering of young people, and not so young, who were graduating in different subject areas through the GOLD program. And that was just one of 3 such sessions that took place earlier this week. It was a packed cultural center, and it gave Guyanese just a glimpse into the magnitude of the impact of the GOLD scholarship program on the lives of many of our people. If you've had a chance to look at the images from the cultural center, you would see that it was reflective of Guyana, the demographics of Guyana, young and old, men and women, and people of every race. And that is a very satisfying thing for us in the People's Progressive Party. Our policies are working for all the people of our country. And I want to once again congratulate all of those who graduated recently and those who have opted to study through this program. They are going to take over the leadership of the country in the future. And I'm convinced that we'll be entrusting the leadership of the country into safe hands. And when I speak of leadership of the country, doesn't have to necessarily be in the political field. It would be in the agriculture, smart agriculture, and the exciting program that we have for expanding agriculture. It would be the leadership of delivering on world-class healthcare and education for our people. It's the leadership in the digital society that we will be creating, or we are working towards. So I'm very excited about that future. And I want to acknowledge the people who have been studying through that program, because there were a lot of naysayers at the beginning of the program. And they've opted to persevere. They had the confidence that the program would yield results for them, and now we're seeing those results. I also want to congratulate the 13,000 odd persons who have also completed the University of Guyana in the 5 years. And when combined, if you look at the 39,000 persons who have been awarded GOLD scholarships and the 13,000 who have completed the University of Guyana in these 5 years, you will see that about over 52,000 persons have had access to tertiary education at some level in the last 5 years. This is a huge number when you consider the size of our population. There are going to be over 700,000 persons on the voters list, but if you look at the cash grant and those who receive those, it would be just over 600,000 persons. So one would assume that the others are abroad. They're on the voters list. They can't vote, but they're still, those who are here now are about just over 600,000 real persons 18 years and above. And when you look at 52,000 persons having access to tertiary education in 5 years, that's a significant part of, it's over 8% of the adult population in one term in office. It's a huge impact. I don't think anywhere in the world, in any country, they've had such a major impact in such a short period on tertiary education or providing tertiary education for the citizens of the country. And what is important is that it's all free. Free, consistent with our promise. Because even those who now, we remove the fee at the University of Guyana, we've made it clear that those who paid in or still have loans from the last 4 years, those would be written off too. So some people say, oh, we should not be talking about this. But this is a major investment in our people. And one could end there, but I wish also to point out that under the WIN program, through the Ministry of Human Services, about 17,000 women have undergone some form of training, and I hope that the ministry will itself speak about how that training has changed the lives of many women in our country. That's not tertiary level training, that's more training for their job opportunities and upgrading their skills in the work environment. And also under the BIT program, that has been a real success. We've trained about 13,000 people there. So when you consider in the last 5 years, if you think about the BIT program, 13,000, 17,000 through WIN, that's 30,000 people. 39,000, a little bit more than that, nearly 40,000 for the WIN, the gold program. So if you say 40,000 people there, that's about 70,000. And then another 13,000 through the University of Guyana. We're talking about 83,000 people who have undergone some form of training, and all for free, with the exception of those who have had to pay, who paid cash for UG, because we now are thinking about how we would help those who paid back in those years, who paid in cash for UG. That's a massive number of people, and it's spread all over our country in every region. So I wanted to emphasize that and to congratulate all of those people who are studying or going in for the training, because they're preparing themselves for this exciting future that we're building together. And this brings me to another important issue. So like last week, when I took a post from Gordon Mosley and in which he showed that 10,000 vehicles came in to the country or were registered in the short space of 3 months, and then look at the impact of that. The reason for this, one, the growing prosperity of our country, and also the necessity to make the plans to ensure that people can also drive safely and be accommodated on our road network. This week I want to take another set of posts that have been made by various individuals from the opposition. And then come to some real issues using these posts. So in the Stabroek News it says, the mayor accuses government of politicizing city road works. And then I've seen a number of posts saying we must not campaign on roads and bridges built, because that's the normal thing for governments to do, to build roads and bridges. So why are you campaigning on it? And then I recall that a few weeks ago we were accused of campaigning, particularly Mr. McCoy, on the cash grant, the children's cash grant, because he spoke at one of those activities and was laying out the history of the cash grant and some other government policies relating to education. And there was a big hue and cry by some sections of the opposition and media, particularly those hostile to us, were saying, why is Kwame McCoy campaigning at a cash grant ceremony? That is not a cash grant, the Because We Care for the Children grant. And I said then, and I'm going to repeat it now, it seems as though there's a feeling in the opposition, supported by some media houses and some people hostile to us, that we must not speak of our achievements. We must not say they want to tell us what we must campaign on. And we must not campaign on all the good things we did. We must only campaign on what they are speaking about. So the reason roads and electricity and water have to form part of the campaign, it's not, I disagree with the individuals who said, oh, no, that's routine functioning of government. Because right now we have an opposition that says you can't eat roads. So they don't see roads as a priority. You can't eat infrastructure. So the contrast is, it's not automatic that a government, when in office, will build roads and water and electricity or expand those networks. And look at the 5 years on the APNU. I want to repeat something that I've said several times. And that is that in the 5 years on the APNU, in every one of those years, the capital budget for the country was less than 2014, the last budget of the People's Progressive Party. On the other hand, the recurrent budget grew massively, and the recurrent budget is to buy food, maintenance of vehicles, a whole range of stuff. The capital budget is, you spend on, through that budget, to build roads, schools, water supply systems, electricity system. So philosophy, economic philosophy, has to be part of your campaign. So it's not automatic. They don't want us to talk about roads or electricity or water. I saw a post from somebody who is a sensible person, an entrepreneur, said, don't, I want to implore politicians not to talk about this. But it is not an automatic thing, because government's job is to build roads. But you do have governments that don't do any of this. And the APNU AFC government never did that because they're short-sighted. They had an economic philosophy that was akin to the one that they practiced in the 70s and 80s that led this, and 90s, well, not early 90s, that led this country to financial ruin and caused us to rack up this huge debt and to become poorer than Haiti, because they never focus on economic growth, capital expansion, or wealth creation. It was all about consumption. They're consumption oriented. And in the 5 years, they returned to a consumption oriented philosophy. So we have to talk about the roads, because they would not have been built by another government. In fact, they're saying now, even in opposition, you can't eat roads. So all the community roads that you see across this country would not have been built by APNU. The highways would not have been built. The electricity, we have that as an example. They killed the hydro, didn't do anything for 5 years, buying new sets, etc. It's because of our philosophy that we're working to get the electricity system fixed definitively, which would lead to a lower price for electricity, and therefore help with disposable income, and also make the cost of doing business cheaper. So this is an important thing. They don't want us to talk about our achievements. Now, to be fair to the person who posted this, because I saw the post, he did not just stop at that. He said, tell us about how these roads will impact on people. There was one individual. I'm not talking about the industry, the opposition, because they don't want you to talk about anything of this nature. I did not think that we had to elaborate on this, because the impact of the infrastructure should be evident for a changed society. But I just want to repeat how a road, for example, would help economic growth and other expansion in the country, or social improvement. So all the roads, every road that we build, particularly the highways, would have an impact on transit time and transit costs for goods and people. And if you can lower the cost of transit, so on the road, or the time that it takes you to move between point A to point B, then that's money saved or time saved. Everything can be quantified, because the time spent on the road stuck in a vehicle could be used in other pursuits, either leisurely pursuits or other economic pursuits. It has an economic cost to that. The time that you spend on the road, there is a cost to it. And then these roads also open up opportunities for people. First of all, opening up new lands. So take, for example, the the Heroes Highway. From Georgetown all the way it would get to the airport. Think about what is taking place on the side of the highways. The growth, the opportunity, opening up more lands for development purposes, both of private lands and state lands. So it's not just state lands, because very few, we have limited amount of state land in that corridor. But it will lead to economic expansion by opening up more opportunities. And if you have not seen it, just look at the visible impact. Just come out of South Georgetown. From the moment you drive out of South Georgetown, the Rumvelt area, you see it. A hotel, the Ministry of Housing, shopping malls, a whole range of economic activities that would employ thousands of people along that corridor. Just imagine the impact on healthcare now. If you're in South Georgetown or anywhere in the Diamond or all the way to Soesdijk, you can then access the Diamond Hospital in minutes. So it's not the road for the sake of building a road. It's not a vanity project. It is an organic part of implementing our economic plan. And I didn't think that we needed to have that discussion, because it would be so evident to everyone that it's not a road just for the sake of building a road. But then you have people saying this, and seemingly sensible people tell us how they would impact real development. And the same thing with the bridges we're building. Just imagine all those bridges, 45 concrete bridges from Linden all the way to Lethem that is under construction, with one remaining, the Kurupukari Bridge. Think about goods going to Brazil and goods coming from Brazil into Ghana. How it's going to change. The wooden bridges that were there before were the biggest humbug to trade, because they were old wooden bridges that collapsed all the time. You couldn't move these big trucks across those bridges. It would have a huge impact with trade with Brazil, resulting in jobs for truckers, for a whole range of other people, apart from opening up more, helping with the cost of living in Region 9. And we're now connecting Region 9 to Region 8 through a road and bridges, so that you can move goods into those regions without having to fly everything into them, which pushes up the cost for people who live in those areas. It's not a vanity project again. It's done to expand economic opportunities and bring access to our people. First of all, that will have an impact on their cost of living, but their produce can then reach the city. Think about the Demerara Bridge, now what that will do for the people in Region 3. And when it's completed and it's free, they're toll free, all of the containers that can move back and forth from the ports across that side of the river, easing congestion in Georgetown. But you don't have to worry now that you can't land a container over there, because you couldn't bring it across the harbor bridge because of weight restrictions. Now you'll be able to bring your container and day and night without a bridge being closed, back and forth. It has de-risked the development of the entire Region 3. Think about when we build the new 4-lane road from the bridge to Goshen, like the Parika area, about how much more lands would be open up there in Region 3. Land for housing, land for business development. So I did not think that we needed to do this to show the linkages, but maybe we do need to show the linkages and to talk about, when completed, how the gas to energy project next year will transform the way we supply electricity, its reliability and price. or the 13 water treatment plants that we are building now, do we need to say what that will do? That will just provide safer, potable water to people, but should we not take credit for it too? They don't want us to take credit. Don't talk about that because that's routine government function. Well, it's not so routine when you think about the other side that we're contesting again. It's not routine. And they would want to make it seem routine so as to diminish what the phenomenal changes that have been taking place that are evident, visible to everyone in our country. Do we need to talk about the 12 new hotels that are under construction? Did it happen by chance? Or was it a response to a particular government policy, encouragement? Went through that right at the beginning of the term, even under COVID conditions, we changed the entire package to promote the development of the hospitality industry and hotels. We changed the incentive regime. We said we'd even assist with the land. We know a price for the land, a preferential price for the land, and we gave a 10 years tax holiday, and we allow for the remove the withholding tax on the repatriation of money, that is if you borrow from abroad, etc., or profits that go abroad. And because of those three policy changes and the encouragement and confidence, we have 12 new hotels being built, which are badly needed in a country like ours. And as a result of that, now 6,000 people will get jobs there, and will transform the hospitality landscape of the country. We can then go out and aggressively promote tourism because we have the hotels which people could stay even if they come to Georgetown, even from the diaspora. That is why we need to explain all of this. But somebody would say, oh, don't happen. They didn't happen by themselves. These hotels that are being developed, it came about because of a government creating the framework for this sort of investment. And that brings me to healthcare. Should we not also speak of our achievements there? So earlier, in fact, over the weekend, I took a drive up to Diamond, and was there at the opening ceremony of the Diamond Regional Hospital. I must confess that I left. I did not go into the hospital after the president spoke. I left, but I had seen images of the quality of the hospital. And I would urge people, don't just pass through the hospital, because you're just overcrowded if you're going there on a sightseeing tour. But you will see this. This is just the first of 6 hospitals that will be completed and open over the next several months. And it may happen before the elections. And a lot of people would say we're opening these hospitals because of the elections. But they represent several years of work. And the decision to build these hospitals took place 3-4 years ago, when the feasibility studies were done and we examined, we had to raise the money and everything else and award the contracts. So this is the fruit of several years of work, and we're happy that they are being open before the elections because they're consistent with our promise to work towards delivering world-class health care for our people. And we're closer to that goal in the 5 years, and we have to account for that stewardship. We're not going to complete the 2 major hospitals that are bigger than these. These are the ones in New Amsterdam and in Georgetown at Ogle. Those are the massive European standard level 5 hospitals. These are a lower level, and they cost substantially more, but they're bigger hospitals with more capabilities. And for the people who've been making suggestions, I saw a lot of the suggestions coming into the party. They're saying that these hospitals should be equipped with modern theaters, etc. They are all equipped with modern theaters, because a number of suggestions have come into the party for the manifesto for the next 5 years. So I want to assure them of that. So, and that's just part of our plan. And so we must not talk about them because it doesn't suit the opposition narrative. But we are going to, because they represent years of dedicated work consistent with a vision that we laid out. And I want to urge people to look at their services. So when they're open in the next few months, the people in Region 2, Region 3, Region 4, Region 5, and Region 6, all the coastal regions, will have now new hospitals serving them, these regional hospitals. The 2 others are being built at Ogle and in New Amsterdam. Those are under construction. 3 others have been awarded in 3 regions, 1, 8, and 9. We're going to award soon in 7. In Region 7, there's a plan to rebuild the Bartica Hospital. The West Demerara Hospital would be rebuilt. We're spending at least $30 million to upgrade Linden. And once we move out the maternity section, the children maternity section from the Georgetown Hospital to Ogle, then Georgetown Hospital, a lot of the buildings will be pulled down, and we have a modernization plan for the entire Georgetown Hospital too. So with play parks and everything in the compound there. So that's part of our plans that they don't want to talk about. But it's not just the facilities. When we talk about healthcare, I see you have a lot of gripers. You have a lot of gripers and nitpickers. You have one nitpicking nuisance from Anog all the time. Lazy, very lazy guy. Talking all the time about hospitals and stuff. There's a comprehensive plan, and I've spoken about this. We will have, like anywhere else in the world, challenges along the way in getting to world-class health services. We'd have a personnel problem. The UK had a personnel problem. They're bringing people from around the world. That's a developed country. The United States has big problems. You go to waiting room in some areas in the United States, you check the statistics, and sometimes you have to wait 6 hours in some states to get to see a doctor, and that's private education, private healthcare. You just check that. So we will have teething problems, but I want to assure people we are working not just on the facilities, the modern world-class facilities that you just heard me speak of, but personnel. You've heard the President speak about this, Minister Anthony speak about this, about the massive training that we're doing now for people to staff these hospitals. We're recruiting aggressively from abroad, specialists, and if necessary, We'll continue to do so so that we can deliver a good quality care in these hospitals. We'd have challenges at the beginning with personnel, but we will get there because we're committed to doing that. We are now looking at management of these hospitals seriously, because we believe that if you have good management, then you would have greater accountability at the hospital, accountability to the patients, that their personnel, doctors, etc., that they are working to deliver the best quality service. And so we have recruited 2 top quality international hospitals, a chain of hospitals, Northwell and Mount Sinai, to assist us with this. We have increased the level of medical supplies in all of the hospitals. Now the availability of medical supplies, you talk to the doctors and compare it with under APNU, and then you would just get an unbiased opinion about the availability of supplies. So it's facilities, it's personnel, it's management, it's the availability of medical supplies. And then we want to increase the level of care through expansion of tertiary care, expansion of preventative medicine. So that is why a lot of the vouchers to go and get tested, so for cervical cancer, so we can catch it even before, it becomes a problem, and get people treated early. We want the universal health care vouchers, so people, if they have some condition, they can go and get their blood test done, or maybe check for hypertension, and we can intervene early before it becomes a problem and causes cardiac or other complications, people losing their feet from diabetes, etc. A lot of focus on preventative medicine, and it's happening already, and we're going to expand that. We're delivering more tertiary care now, even at the level of our hospitals, public hospitals. You have joint and hip replacement, you have even cardiac care, stenting, a whole range of things done in public institutions, and that will only grow. And then we're collaborating with the private sector on delivering other kinds of tertiary care that we can deliver by offsetting some of the cost or co-investing with them, like we did with the CHI in the early years, so that we can bring the cost down. So all of these things are part of a plan. If I just give you some quick head or the areas of focus, but under each is an elaborate plan to roll this all out. And then most importantly, not most importantly, along with the improvement in public health care, we are also working to create incentives for private health care. So we've removed the corporate tax very early in the first budget that we passed, because we had promised that in our manifesto. We removed the corporate tax. We removed the customs duties and VAT on equipment that they're using to modernize if they're bringing in new MRI or CT scans or other things, equipment, more advanced equipment in the private sector, don't have to pay taxes now. We've removed a lot of the taxes on medical supplies. Contrast that with APNU. They had put the VAT on medical supplies that were not there before when we left office. We removed them back again. So that's our plan, but we must not talk about it. If you listen to the opposition, they don't want us to talk about this because it doesn't suit their narrative. They only want to talk about race. But I don't see people doing, when you look at the people again manning the hospitals, the people look like Guyana, the nurses, the doctors, etc. They're our people of every race, every religion. We don't ask who in the public sector, we don't differentiate on the level of care or where the hospitals are built. We got to bring access to all of our people, whether they live in the hinterland or on the coast. They used to talk about, oh, New Amsterdam, we are running down New Amsterdam. New Amsterdam will have a $160 million US facility built there. It's under construction. Bigger than any one of these. It's an opposition stronghold, but it will serve the people of Berbice. So we didn't care too much about that. And because it's serving people everywhere. They don't want the conversation to go there, because that's where we have been over the last several years. And what you see now, the bridge nearing completion, you see now, is not a decision we took yesterday. We've been hard at work for several years doing this. To roll out the community roads. We first of all required a commitment, which we did. It required finding billions of dollars, which came from the budget. And it also, we made it into an opportunity for thousands of small contractors of every race to implement it. Yeah, we had some variable performance. Some people didn't do a good job, etc. But that is to be expected when you're dealing with so many people, especially small people, and you're trying to incubate them. So I know that sometimes that is a problem. But just imagine, and we did this with the same capability, with the same staff that APNU had. In fact, in some cases, with less people, because there was a strong commitment to do it, and also the competency to do it. They lack both. They lack the commitment and competency. And so we must not speak about these things. I see this, but it's coming mainly from their people, because they're ashamed of the contrast. They're ashamed of the comparison. Because they really didn't do much for the 5 years. They increased taxes after promising not to do so. We lost jobs, thousands of jobs. Now I see some fossils, like people who are like bitter people who are all in their 70s from this, or 80s or 100 years old. Bitter people who can't be happy for our country and happy for our young people. They're all bitter from the oil and gas network. I saw them write a letter in the Starbuck News. Oh, we don't believe it's 60,000 people that found jobs under the PPP in the last 5 years. These are the ones who are always hostile to us. They didn't say anything when 30,000, 40,000 people lost jobs under the APNU. Sugar workers, the miners, ordinary people generally. Everybody from every sector lost jobs. Not a word. Now we have labor shortages in some parts of the country. They're the very ones who would complain they can't find workers. But we have a problem with the number 60,000. Well, the number is actually even higher. We're conservative. We're conservative about this. We have shortages in many parts of the country of labor. Every day people complain they can't find enough. And just think about the work sites. The work sites. The people who are building the bridge, they're Chinese, mainly Chinese workers. Just imagine if we had to deploy only Guyanese to building that bridge across the Demerara River. We'd have even more shortages. You wouldn't find them elsewhere or somewhere else. So we do have lots of employment opportunities here in the country, but they are, the PPP thing. That's all week they're writing that. That is where, look at the Starbuck News this week. Oh, we don't like the number 60,000, some World Bank report, they're going to Stats Bureau as something else. That's what they live on, negative. We must not talk again about that, or our success in these areas. So we will, they didn't say anything on the APNU. I see Christopher Ram, another fossil himself. He, again, bitter, talking about, oh, the PPP and the oil and gas contract again, that Ali must not get a second term. You know, who listens to Christopher Ram? And I think he gives a kiss of death to any side that he links up with. Yeah, you know, some people are just sour, and they're that's it. It's an industry now from the negatives, and they're all coming forward. So let me make it clear. We're going to campaign on what we did, what we promised, what we did. So we're going to campaign on putting $11 billion in the pockets of the parents and children that APNU took away from them. Because it was zero, the Because We Care grant in 2020, now it's $11 billion per year that they receive. When you look at the $55,000 and you multiply it by the number of people, children in the country. That is what we'll campaign on, because we kept our promise. We said we'll do it. And in the next term, it will even be massively higher for the children of the country. Their parents, each child would receive much, much more. I don't want to call the numbers now. We have to wait until the manifesto comes out. But it will be huge, a huge increase for the children of our country. That's where our money is going, into their parents' pocket, the parents' pocket, and the children that APNU took away from them. So why shouldn't we do that? And we also, the 76,000 pensioners now are getting $20 billion more than they were getting in 2020. About 76,000 pensioners. If you look at the increase, it's about 19 point something billion dollars more that they're getting every year, more than they were getting in 2020. We campaign on that too. We'd say we kept our promise to you, and that will increase in the next term. And the public servants are getting $105 billion more than they got in 2020. Per year, I'm talking about year. The farmers have gotten help. The miners got back. We removed we lowered the royalty rate. We removed the VAT on machinery and equipment, and we removed the tributous tax. And so they got all the benefits back again. The farmers got benefits through, now they're getting some help back with DNI, they're getting help with seed paddy, and we've removed the machinery, the VAT on machinery and equipment again for the farmers. We reversed the high water and land charges that they put on them. So we're going to talk to the farmers about this. Why shouldn't we? Because we did it. APNU just put more burden on them. So I can go down the long list, and I would say to the PPP supporters, we have things to talk about. We don't every day wallow in racism, because we are a party that brings people to us, and we're a national party. We don't need to engage in that. They're the dying, moribund group that just focuses on racism all the time. And so we have achievements to talk about. Our campaign is about achievements. So we don't be ashamed if you're a PPP supporter, or embarrassed because they're saying we must not talk about these things. You just go on, talk about them as much as you can, because they're part of what we promise, and we'll continue to do so. Talking about racism, and I saw some of its vilest expression in the last week coming from the other side. So, Winston Jordan, a person who was extraordinarily lazy in the period when I was Minister of Finance and President, but we kept him on. He was earning a foreign salary and doing very little in the Office of the Budget in the Ministry of Finance, who was a disaster as Minister of Finance in the 5 years, who just put all these taxes that I've been talking about, layer upon layer of taxes, and in an unapologetic way, who was scandal-oriented and prone. You remember what took place at Gael and the conversation that was made publicly, that was made public. You recall all of the lands that he transferred without collecting any money, some of them after the elections were held. And you remember him saying he thought that the 18 million signing bonus was a gift. This is Winston Jordan. So the Demerara, again, Ghana Standard had a headline. And it says, Chandan Edmund was gifted seat by largely Afro-Guyanese. Then she betrayed them. While saying that the MP move did not come as a surprise, he said it was reprehensible. So it did not come as a surprise. That is, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. We didn't trust her really. It didn't come as a surprise because she is Indo-Guyanese. So this was to be expected of her. They're duplicitous. That is his logic here. I'm not going to go on much more about this. That's just the headline. You should think about it. Dr. Hines dubs Seram in the same Guyana Standard, Seram an ingrate whose race was the greatest asset in black-dominated party. Here is an Indian man rewarded by the vote of Africans. So that's how they see people when they're part of the party and collective. They can never get past that. Not to see people as comrades, as, brothers in a party or family in a party. That's how we in our party, we see people as part of a family. It's not clannish, but that's how we see people. They give it to an Indian because the racial optics are part of our politics. That is what they said about Daniel Seram, how he got the job. He was part of the APNU optics. This was the same David Hines who said that the reason why Ramjatan and Nagamotu was added to the list is so they can bring in basically fool Indians to take them to the APNU list or to get them to vote there. It's this sort of everything is about race. They can't see. So if you're Afro-Guyanese, as I said last week, and you come to the PPP, you are called all sorts of names. I don't even want, it's so vile. But, slave catchers, everything else under the sun. And then the Indian ones who might have supported the PNC in the past, or AFC, if they decide to support the PPP or anyone else, they suddenly, we expected that from them. They're always duplicitous. Indo-Guyanese, never part of to see people for who they are and the contributions they make. Even Amna Ali, who was in the PNC for 50 years, had to undergo that sort of abuse. She was general secretary of the party, gave her entire life to the PNC, but never was accepted. If you look at the people on the PPP side, like a Roger Luncheon or a Kwame McCoy, they cost them all their lives, but they grew in the party. They go to Congress, they get some of the highest votes, they're part of our team. Nobody talks about them in the PPP as window dressing or anything else, or racial optics, because we don't see people that way. We see them for the contribution that they want to make. And then there is a letter to the established news. Crossover phenomenon connotates a possible reverse result, by Adriana Thomas. I'm just going through this because I want to draw attention to dog whistles. And she said, they're not going to really, all these people who went are not going to take any votes much or bring the PP much votes. For every one of them, we must now, 3 more persons must come out on our side. So she is saying to Afro-Guyanese, basically, ignore the failure of this party, the lack of leadership. Ignore the fact that they have no plan for the future of this country. Ignore the fact that they betrayed the people of this country, including their own supporters, by not fulfilling the promises they made to them in between 2015 and 2020. Ignore the fact that they're focused only on racism. That's the only reason you must support them. Not because of policy, not because of plan, not because of anything else, not because it's good for you and your own future. You must remain wedded to this party, even if they're sinking ship, even if they have no future whatsoever, just because of race. Is this what people are saying here? If this, like they were doing when they said people must not apply for the gold scholarships, they'll never get this. Remember the early days of the PNC? They didn't even want people to apply for the gold scholarships. So I saw Carl Greenidge saying a couple of things about Geeta Chandan, but I think she's resigned from both Parliament and also the People's National Congress. I'm not going to deal with Carl Greenidge because I thought it was more balanced, and I'm not going to deal with him this week. Maybe next week address that issue. So then can those endorsing President Ali, Annette Ferguson, truly influence voting population? And that's out there. Not those endorsing us will influence the population. We're happy that people are coming to our party, and we welcome them. People who have been with the People's National Congress, people who've been with other parties, or who've been leaders of the small parties, and they are welcome to join our party. I want to, to join our campaign. They don't have to become members of our party to be part of our national campaign. They don't have to be members of our party to be welcome in our collective. Many of them will not seek membership, and there are many people who are part of the cabinet now who are not members of our party. Samuel Hines was prime minister for all those years. He is not a party member, but he was a comrade. He was loved in the party. He was not treated any differently from as a party member. So that's one. Two, we don't, when people come to us, say, you have to prove yourself to us by cussing the people where you came from. We don't demand that of them. The other side need to do that. So we don't encourage them. If you want to make the choice openly to come to the PPP, and you make that choice, and you want to support us because you have seen that this party has performed well in government, and most people who have decided to support us have spoken about what they have seen, the plans for the future, the achievements of the 5 years, and that's why they're endorsing President Ali and the PPP, because of what we are, what we have done for the country. And PPP supporters are happy for that because they see people recognizing that we are changing the country. So a lot of people come to us for that reason, but we don't say, like somebody was asking President Ali, oh, did they repudiate the APNU? And, we don't ask them to do that. They can do that if they wish, and a lot of people are speaking about their personal experience in APNU and the failures, but there's no demand from our party to run down the other side. I saw President Ali being asked, oh, did they renounce the role that they played in rigging the elections? Well, I've spoken about the leadership of these parties. The leadership of the parties have to do that. Nigel Hughes, who is the leader of that party, he has refused to do that. And Norton. These two, in fact, they keep insisting that they won the elections. They're not only not repudiated their role, but they're still insisting that they won the elections. The stolen mandate that they speak of. So we don't require of people who come to us, we don't treat them like, we don't rub their nose in the dust. We treat people with dignity. I made it clear in the past, and they asked, oh, our PPP, I saw a Democrat Waves headline, and they asked the president whether PPP supporters are upset that people are coming to us. And then the headline says, few long-serving PPP members complaining about APNU AFC defectors. Ali said that, making it look like it's a trend. Now, people have always, on the ground, we have a party where people can express their views freely. But I don't see this as a big trend, and most PPP supporters know that what is important is winning the election so we can continue to transform this country. And and that we treat people fairly. There's been no promise made to anybody. And we need, if you're a rice farmer, or a sugar worker, or a miner, or just a PPP supporter, if you're Indo-Guyanese or Amerindian, or Afro-Guyanese, but say you're Indo-Guyanese, you also know that if this party is not in power, you be the brunt of you'd face the brunt of discrimination, as what happened in the past. So they want us to win the elections, and they're happy that people are coming to us because they see what we're about. It makes us stronger. They're happy that we're growing stronger. Why would they be dissatisfied that we're growing stronger? When our party from Chedi Jagan days, we focus on this at the Babujan. The young people who read those quotes at Babujan, they read about 7 quotations from Chedi Jagan, showing that even in the worst times, we're trying to build a national party, a multi-ethnic party. So why should we be upset? They made it look like it's a trend. Everybody, all the PP supporters are upset. They're not. They're happy people. We're growing stronger because they know without us being in power, then the country's fortune would be reversed and they would feel the brunt of the discrimination. So I don't see all of this. All week long, they're trying to create dissatisfaction in the PPP ranks. It's futile. It's a futile attempt. It's not going to work. But I thought I'd just address it frontally here, just so that those who may be misled by those headlines, they can see our perspective on the matters. We're happy with them. I saw Mr. Ali Koch has recently endorsed President Ali for another term in office, and he was a vice president under the last government, and I think he has seen the development in the country. They may not be happy with everything that we do. Not everyone is happy now because we still have a lot of things to do. Even our own hardcore supporters, when you go to the communities, they say there's still this to be done, the drains to be fixed, the NDC don't pick up the garbage, etc. But they will support the PPP because they see it being fixed in the future if we're there. They will support, even with the small amount of dissatisfaction there. Now, my friend Norton repudiated the friendship. He said, oh, Jagdeo is not my friend. Jagdeo is part of a corrupt cabal. I don't keep friendship with corrupt cabal. It was just an expression. I think Norton is worried that if I keep saying he's my friend, the hardcore in there would say, oh, you're friends with the demon, because that's they call me the demon, and it may affect him, So just to save Norton, there is no formal friendship. Let me say there's no formal friendship between Norton and I. I wish him well with his great leadership skills and everything else over there. So, but he even issued a long statement like this: Jagdeo is not my friend and all that. It really bothered him that I referred to him as my friend. It was just for his hardcore supporters. Norton is not my friend, so that they don't harass him. I remember how they harassed other leaders that they thought. They used to spread rumors that Corbyn is my friend and then tried to harass Corbyn and all of that. I think Norton is worried about that.